The idea is to make work optional, that life is a lot better when you have options, and financial freedom is going to be what gives you those options. So what I've got today is 3 guys making work optional. There are a lot of different paths to financial freedom, and no one knows which one's right for you until you figure that out yourself. Some people will invest in stocks, use the 4% rule, or invest in dividend stocks. There's the crypto path. They're starting and growing a business with the intent of growing it to the point where it's large enough for someone else to run the day-to-day. The 3 of us chose real estate. That doesn't mean it's the right way for you. It was just the right way for us. A lot of the concepts are the same. So we have Matt, the lumberjack landlord, who is one of the smartest guys I know, but only went to the 9th grade, which means intelligence doesn't come from education. And financial freedom doesn't come from our public education system or most of our private education systems. Until the advent of YouTube University, I don't think there was very many ways to get this information in an educational format. You have reached financial freedom, in my opinion, multiple times over. Haven't pulled the trigger yet, still working. And that's the point of never work again means make work optional. It doesn't mean you have to quit. When I reached financial freedom, I worked for 4 more years. I liked my job. Eventually, time freedom went out. And I think eventually that's going to be what happens with you. And then we have Millennial Mike, who has, last count, 10 rental properties. Am I even close now? Yeah, okay, because the numbers changed a lot with you guys often. Living in an expensive, high cost of living area, investing out of state. So you're house hacking locally, investing out of state, making work optional, and especially working in a field where you probably have a pension. It could be there. Something could happen at the 17-year mark where the job is taken away, and all those years put into that meant nothing. So instead of being like a lot of first responders, you're actually taking matters into your own hand. It's kind of what happened with me in 2008 when the recession happened. A lot of police departments kind of shrunk and laid off. And I found myself looking for work at the same time as a bunch of qualified officers. At any point, anybody in the military and law enforcement and IT, like right now, the tech industry this year is doing all the layoffs. And if your source of income is how you pay your bills, life sucks. Yeah, especially if you make your money selling your life 1 hour at a time. What do you do when nobody's buying? So the point of today, this video, and for the people in Futureland, hello Futureland, is to answer questions on how to make work optional, how to never have to work again, how to put your money to work and get on the list of people benefiting from your money. So, howdy to everybody. Good to see you here on this random Friday midday live stream. Matt.
Yeah.
What made you decide to invest? Not just real estate, just decide to invest.
So I knew early on that I was never sure of what my retirement was going to be. So I started working full time in a real job at 18. And maybe hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I'm doing this on my phone because my house lost internet in this storm. But yeah, I think it was really just looking at things and saying, I don't know what the future is going to hold. I don't know what's going to be there. Will Social Security be there? When I was, 18, 19 years old, will Social Security be there in 45 years? When everyone's like, it's going to run out in 2020 something. And it was like, okay, well, maybe it is. And that means I'm like in my 40s. And so it was really just about creating and making my own path. And because I was in tech, that was my real job. Because I was in tech, everybody in tech was a stock investor. Everybody. No one was a property investor. Everybody was investing in stocks. So I kind of followed that path, learned what I needed to learn, and then started investing, and then literally just got crushed with the dot-com bomb. And knew that if I wasn't going to live in Manhattan, and if I wasn't going to be hanging out with all the people that trade all that information, I'm sure completely legally, I needed to get into something that I could better manage myself, where I wasn't going to get hit with a hush number or, oh yeah, didn't you know that? I don't know. I'm in New Hampshire. I don't talk with people that are in Manhattan. So it was really just a way of being able to do something and invest in something that would ensure that when I was ready to walk away from and retire, that I had at least something aside from, the 401k that I watched get obliterated, during the .com crash.
I think it's great where you want to put your money to work because you hear Social Security could be going away. And I think one of the aspects of making work optional is making Social Security optional.
Yes.
There are so many people that are in their 30s and 40s. They get their letter from the IRS once every couple of years saying, if you retired today, based on current income, this is what you would receive. Not looking at what point in time do they start giving 70 or 80% disbursements instead of 100% because the funds aren't there, because it's the government's piggy bank to use for other things.
Right.
Take control. Take the option out of someone else taking it away, due to something outside of your control. Kind of like people working for a pension, and then that municipality or area files bankruptcy, or that company goes out of business, and then the pension fund is gone.
Exactly.
I mean, isn't that what Madoff was? Is taking the pension?
Yeah,
fund?
I mean, he would have big pension funds and what's called family offices invest with him, and they're just like, yeah, you don't understand. The returns are amazing, almost unbelievable.
Robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's why.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And we're going to figure out with FTX how much of that is actually easier to do now. There's that chronology of timeline where it took X number of decades for the average person to have a car, then this many years for the average family to have a microwave, and then this many months for the average person to have a cell phone, and then this many days for so many millions of people to log into an app, where the ability to take a ton of money from a ton of people is getting easier and faster.
Sure.
Mike, before we get to the questions, and I see some good ones coming in here, you're working in an industry that has a pension great life insurance for good reasons. Why are you investing? What got you into this?
What initially inspired me to start investing was before I even became a police officer, before I had access to a wonderful government pension. And I do have access to a good pension. I can retire at any age, so long as I've done 25 years, and I got hired at 25. So that means at 50, I could be out. My pension is really good compared to industry standards. It's 50% of my highest paid 2 years. So, presumably my last 2 years of working, I would imagine I'm making probably by that time, 180 grand a year easily. 50% of that guaranteed paid out, adjusting for inflation. That's a good pension. A lot of people love pensions, wish they still had them. Boeing got rid of theirs. Most big companies have, because they're not solvent. And therein lies the rub for me. How many unfunded pension liability articles have to be published about this company or the state of Illinois, the city of Chicago, before you say, is that actually going to be there for me when I retire another 20 years from now? And then when I live another 30 or 40 years past that? I don't have any faith in the system, no matter how well it's run. I know what the government will do. They will rob you blind. They will legally rob Peter to pay Paul, because they're the government. They can do whatever they want. And they'll empty the coffers, and it will be you who is left out in the cold with nothing to back you. So I don't trust Social Security, and I don't trust a pension. And then there's the fact that I actually don't think they're that good. Even what I just described for you, I don't think that $80,000 in 2055 is going to be anything. I think that the cash flow that I build from real estate will adjust from inflation. I will own real assets. I will be able to bring in a monthly cash flow. By that time, if I chose, I could have paid off all of my rentals, cash flowing 100% minus some expenses and a manager. And my pension will be completely obliterated by my own self-built retirement account in rental properties, which is what Dion has, which is what Matt already has. In fact, Matt does have it many times over, but he doesn't want to live life at, unfortunately, you work 40 years to live on 4% of what you saved. It's not a formula that most people, if they really sat down and did the math on what it means they'll be able to live on, it's not a formula most people would be happy to accept. It sounds good because it sounds better than nothing, which it is. But I don't want to live life in squalor as I get older, as I see many old people who live on Social Security do. I don't want that to be me.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad you worded it with, after X number of years, I can retire at any age, because a lot of people haven't really considered that age factor. There are people who start working at cities like City of Tacoma, or if you join the military and you go, okay, this really isn't for me, I'm going to get out, but I want some security. Like my friend Tony was talking to me the other day, super smart guy. He's like, I'm going to stay in the reserves because I want that cushion. I've got this kind of backup plan where, I could deploy, I have these benefits and everything, and, it'll get a retirement too. Well, the thing that a lot of people don't really pay attention to, especially with military pensions, is City of Tacoma and some other cities will say, you can retire after this many years. If that many years and your age added together equals a certain age, 65, 60, 50, whatever, the reserves is that way. It doesn't have to equal something. You have to be 55, right? You can join the military at 18, retire after 20 years, active duty. They don't really kind of advertise it. Yeah, you could drop out, get into the reserves, still get a pension. That's tied to an age. So now you're 38, 20 years after being in, some of that in the reserves, and don't have that option for that pension if it's there. So we talk often about the average person reaching financial independence in 10 years or less. And even if you're not starting from the best position, which I wasn't. Matt, you were recovering from a 90% loss in the stock market.
Yes.
Right? It was something like that, right? Pretty close.
It was.
Or even more.
Yeah.
And so there's a
I got
question
super
here,
beat with how much I lost.
by numbers. Yeah, by
What bragging rights, Matt?
Yeah.
We should get a trophy for that.
I lost more than you.
It did.
Exactly.
It was awful.
Next on divorce court. But Mike, there's a question here from Cody asking you, how many more units or much cash flow till financial freedom, and how close are you? And what does that timeline look like? It's that's probably a question almost everyone is asking themselves about their own situation. So what's it look like for you?
That's a really good question, actually. And I'm going to give you, I'm sorry, a little bit of an elaborate answer, and I'm going to have to bring in Matt on this one. Some investors would say, hey, I reached financial independence earlier than you did, so I must be a better investor than you. Except if you know anything about Matt, if you knew anything about his numbers, he reached his lean fire, the bare minimum cost that he needed to cover all of his expenses. He reached that years ago, probably a decade ago. I don't know the exact time frame. He reached it a long time ago. So why is he still working? Why is he still continuing to grow a portfolio? Why is he still continuing to stay active, work hard? He's releasing a course, which, shout out. I'm the guy who's kind of doing some editing on it. It's good. You guys are going to love it. Why is he still putting so much work and effort into building a portfolio when he's already reached financial freedom? Well, I'll let him answer that. But I'll say, when will I hit the minimum cash flow to retire and live a lean fire lifestyle? I could reach that I might actually already be there. If I really decided to get lean, cut costs, and just live lean, I could probably do it right now. I don't want to, because I also would like a Lamborghini one day like Matt. And while I don't encourage people to get into real estate investing so that they can become rich crypto bros who flex on the broke boys, that's not why I encourage you to get into real estate investing. But truthfully, deep down, yeah, I want to travel. I want to be able to go fly out to visit Matt. I want to be able to go see some of the places in the world that I've never been to before. I want to go do things with my son. And so I understand that if I'm not going to be lean fire, I have to create for myself a surplus that will allow me to continue investing after I've retired, much like Dion, who has been retired for like 6-7 months now, but still has enough money coming in to save for his next rental property. So yeah, Matt, I would say, why don't you jump on that? How come you haven't retired when it's so easy for you?
Hang on just a second.
Go ahead.
I'm making sure. I thought we were getting kicked there for a second. Okay, sorry.
Good.
It's at internet connection gone. Go ahead. Sorry. We need a 10-year-old to run this deck.
Still see us on the live stream.
So the reason that I just wanted to sort of kind of, talk about what Dion talks about with the income snowball, what we all kind of experienced. First 5 years being a huge bucket of suck. But then the next 5 years being more fun. I can tell you that the first 5 are really hard. And the next 5, it starts to be more fun. And then the next 5, it's a lot more fun. And then the next 5, it gets ridiculous. Like it gets ridiculous. You start looking, if you were following a path and doing it the way it should be done, like what's taught in my course, then the numbers get ridiculous. And so I just wanted to keep on doing good deals. And so long as it was a really good deal, I would do it. And so for me, it just became much more about the fact of then you get this, now you have this skill, right? And who doesn't like doing things that they get really good at, right? And so I'm really good at a few things. This is one of them. And so it becomes very easy to do another deal and then to do another and to do another. So long as you're paying attention to the fundamentals, from my perspective, I have more monthly income than I ever imagined I was going to. I live in a nicer house than I ever thought I was going to. And so for me, it's much more just like, we just like doing the next deal and the next deal and the next deal and the next deal. Mike,
Matt's shower has more square footage than my bedroom. It was, I had to go into his room and into his shower and then Snapchat Marina just to show her the shower because it was that impressive. So it's a nice shower. I mean, like it's kind of the life I want.
Well, you got to put a cow in there. Of course it's nice. Like It's got to be big. I got to fit in the thing.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, so what it really comes down to is I think that everyone gets to make that decision. And for me, I really like, like Dion, I really liked my job. I enjoyed what I was doing. I was doing something that was still fun for me. I like doing the real estate stuff. I got really good at it. And so it became easier and easier to do it because I've, in my real life, I turn around businesses. And so because I'm able to turn around businesses, that was a skill that paid pretty well. But then when I look at my own business, it was processes, products, people, and really managing things that way. And that's, what's allowed us to continue to grow. And so eventually I'm just going to get to a point where it's like, I don't want to do the W-2 job anymore. And when I do, then that's the time that I get to move on and I'll be able to step into something else and have a lot of familiarity. And more importantly, my lifestyle will actually drastically improve like Dion's.
Right. So I'm going to get to REI Stoner's question here, but first I want to address something for All Nighter Hider, who it's an imagination problem. You said it, Matt. You couldn't imagine having the home. You couldn't imagine having the cash flow. If you went back probably 5 or 6 years, I was on the path to financial independence. I was like a year or two away from financial independence, year or two away from financial freedom after that, right? Where you don't look at price tags anymore. I remember most of my life telling my friends, family, and my kids, which was a big mistake, I'm one of those guys that's going to work until he dies because I couldn't imagine having so much money. So All Nighter, I want you to think, if you made $1 billion a month, just $1 billion showed up in your bank account every month. Think of a number so big you can't even think of it. Like it takes 32 years to count 1 second at a time to get to $1 billion. And you have that much showing up in your account every month. Money means nothing. You say, I'm going to work until I die because I like it. Would you work on something that you had to be compensated for? Or would you work at becoming a better scuba diver, a better skier, a better welder, fabricating things that people use, but it's an art to actually put the metal together? Or would you do it because that job pays $300 an hour, that one pays $700 an hour, the $700, I'm going to go for that one because it's so much money. Who wouldn't do that? But if you have so much money coming in, so $1 billion is where it was. For Matt, it's 100,000, 200,000 a month, whatever that number is. It says, wow, it'd be really stupid to go to work today. For me, it was doing everything I want to do and thinking of ways to spend money, and then only saving around $10,000 a month on top of that without having to work, to where I sat back and I thought, it doesn't matter how much I enjoy this job. Having a schedule and employees who rely on me to make sure the work is there for them to do it, and
Sure.
owners who relied on me to make sure they were making money and the business was stable, isn't worth any amount of money.
Yeah.
I've had multiple companies, transportation companies, that I was on their what's called a wheel board, which is a great pun, on how to improve their business. Reach out and say, hey, you don't work at the truck driving school anymore. How's $250,000 to start? Just come in and run our operations. I'm like, $1 million a year. It's not worth it. Financial freedom, once you hit the tipping point, There isn't a number that would say, come and have a job. That doesn't mean I wouldn't take $5,000 for a 1-hour Zoom call, right? I'm not stupid. I'm not going to avoid money, but I'm definitely avoiding jobs. And this is how to never work again. And all nighter, you might have that job where you just love going and doing what you're doing and you do it. But at some point you might tell the people, look, I'll do it for a third of the price just because I enjoy it. Right. So something to think about. And before I get to the super chat, I want to see RAI Stoner's question here. Would you suggest having a job that pays in commission on sales? And the reason I wanted to get to this is because I've heard Lumberjack Landlord and Michael Zuber talk several times on, if you had to start over today from zero, what would you do? And Matt, what is your guys' initial every time answer when that question comes up?
1,000%. 1,000%. Usually the worst sales guy makes about the same as a top 10% engineer in a lot of companies. And so
less college too. Less math.
Yeah, well, that's it. Well, so a lot of times, like now you have YouTube University where a lot of guys can get self-taught, so they can be building their stuff on the side, and they, have great discipline and good coding skills and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I started off in a telemarketing department that paid $18,500 a year. And my commission was $1 when I would give a lead to sales. It was $1. And so I cut my teeth doing that. That was 6 or 7 months. And then I got promoted into a sales position. And then it was game on, and I much rather have a compensation package on any level that directly compensates me according to my success, not according to my attendance.
People talk about the 1%. It's far less than 1% of the people who think that way.
Yes.
So many people are, I need to know exactly what I'm going to make.
Yep.
Right. And You don't in sales. It is based on your performance. Nope. So there are people like me, right? Super lazy. I was just working for a paycheck. I didn't realize until real late in life how powerful the ability to talk is.
Yes.
If you have people skills and you can get into that sales role where you can do something that grows the company, because remember, there's a list of people benefiting from your income.
That's
when
right.
you work, your boss is going to make more than you. The more you make your boss, the more you can be compensated. And you're not going to do that. These companies that are calling saying, well, first a couple called and said, wow, you got fired from the truck driving school. What happened? I'm like, that's not what happened. I quit. But they're not calling me to go and drive a truck for them for $250,000. They're saying, you have the ability to sell our product. You have the ability to grow our company.
Yeah.
You have the ability to sell our company to our employees. You can get our employees on board with making more money for our company. That's what they want to compensate you for. So I agree with Matt and Mike. Every time that question comes up, if you can get into something that's commission-based, be paid on efforts, that's the whole point of investing. We're not being paid on our time. If I was paid on time, I'm working maybe 2 hours a month, right? You're not going to get paid a lot for that if you're just your time you're selling. But the results of what those 2 hours do is what generates the income.
Yeah, people are getting paid for knowledge and their ability to execute.
Right. Kind of like in law enforcement. You're not going to make as much money in your department or on overtime as you are going to be attached to a construction company sitting on the side of the road, getting paid what they're paying to bill you to be there. Amafid, good morning. Howdy. Thank you for that. Do the work. You'll be alive in 5 years, which means you should start investing like it today. Like everybody talks about, I hear this all the time from like Back to the Future. You don't want to go back to when your grandparents were there because you can make a small change and mess up everything and your current existence wouldn't happen. But nobody talks about making a change now that's going to impact your existence in 5 or 10 years. And that's what we're doing. It's do the work, but it's not like go out and work 80 hours a week at this. Matt said the first 5 years sucked because for me, it was 2 years until I bought one thing and then 2 years until I bought one more thing. So 2 things in 4 years. That's the kind of work it took. It took every day hunting for those deals and every day continuing to save and every day trying to increase the income and keeping the credit score up. So it took like consistency, but it didn't take a lot of actual physical work.
Right. I think the key to that though is that, I look at my journey And the way to expedite that was by creating processes and systems that allowed for whatever level of growth I was ready to go after.
There's a comment here from, I'll say Eric. Y'all need to renegotiate your pensions. I'm medicaled out at 64% with 15 years, would have been 70%. So depending on the situation, yes, I think renegotiating. I think a lot of veterans really need to go and look at their VA compensation, especially, just a quick side note to derail transportation for a second. Sorry. In August, the PACT Act was signed, P-A-C-T. If you're a veteran, you need to Google it and go get registered for it. If you were ever in country, anywhere where there were burn pits, they finally admitted that toxic air might have a negative impact on you. But you have from August 2021 to August 2022 to get screened and on the registry. So, sorry, back on to real estate.
2021 to 2022, or is it
That's already
23?
passed.
Sorry. Yeah, no, it's this year, August of this year to next year. Did I talk about having memory issues? I don't think it came from toxic air, but
yes, 2023. So go out and get screened.
thank you for correcting me. You're absolutely right. So from this year until next year, 2023, August of 2023, you have to get screened, which means you should do it now.
Yes. I have a lot of friends that served and they suffer the effects, and they should get every dime that they need.
And that's in any industry. That's why we have labor
Yes.
and industries insurance. If you're put into a situation where the training messes you up, we come from a generation, I think, where a lot of our parents and grandparents talked about suck it up, like, walk it off. Well, there are a lot of companies making a lot of money off of your efforts, and that those benefits are there for a reason. Rob, there isn't a dollar amount, but there may be a mission. It's a great way to put it. I like that. Make sure I'm not missing any comments here.
So that comment's right on. I mean, that's really, truly, Rob put it perfectly. That's really the way that I felt about it. It was, I didn't have even an end goal in mind, 10 units, 20 units, this much money a month, that much money a month. It was, I really like doing it. Let's just keep on doing the next deal so long as we can create a great deal. And then when somebody asks me, hey, do you want to get to 100 or 200 or 500? I don't have an answer. I'm not looking to get to a dollar amount. I'm not looking to get to a unit count. I'm not looking to get to a tenant count. I'm not looking to get to any of those things.
I like what Chris did here. Fourth unit listed last week, swapped retirement funds to purchase and rehab. I kind of like the rentals as a retirement.
Mm-hmm.
It's a strategy that I used. I really like it. I like that you didn't do it for your first one, right? I think our first one is when we tend to make our biggest mistakes. But once you have a couple and you've got the basics down, the retirement funds, and I know I get attacked in the comments, so come at me, bro. But there's two people benefiting from your retirement accounts. Three, because the government weasels their way into everything. They're delaying taxes to get more in the future. The first person who benefits from your retirement account isn't one that people think. Who do you think, Mike?
Your employer.
Your employer, exactly. Your boss. It's a retention program. Why do you think a pension says, hey, in 20 years or 25 years, right? Turnover is expensive for an employer, like turnover is expensive for a landlord. So we think as a landlord, what's going to keep my tenants in place? What things can I fix or help limit tenant turnover? I want places with washer dryer hookups in it. An employer will take a part of someone's compensation and put it in as a match. So you could have got the money in your wages. There are companies that don't have pensions and they'll compensate you more in some cases. So they take that money and they put it in your pension. They put it in your match. They put it in your 401k. They put it in something that says the longer you work here, the better your retirement will be. That's the first. Then the second person who benefits from your retirement accounts, and why it's advertised so well, because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, is the people who run the accounts. Even if you self-manage a retirement account, it's still going through a fund. There's somebody out there pulling 0.5 or 1%. Whether you make money or you lose money, they're making money. Instead of, like in 2020, I emptied out, in January, so in a week or so, I'm going to pull whatever's left in my retirement account out in 2023. because I don't have a W-2. So I'm going to be in the lowest tax bracket. I'm going to pull that money out and put it to work in a rental. I'll pay the penalty, I'll pay the taxes, and I will happily do that because the money in a rental is going to pay me much more than any tax benefits I would get in a retirement account. So,
Is that in another rental that you can't find still?
well, it's in a rental I'd have to actually look for because I'm lazy. I've been enjoying these 6 months of sitting. I've actually helped a couple of friends close on deal. I had one where I was triplex. I was going to get it. And then I have a friend who's house hacking it now. So it isn't so much that I can't find the deals. They're there. And the two that I helped close this year, I told both of them, I said, look, if this doesn't work for you, track every penny you have into it because I'll buy it for that from you. And so kind of helping them give them the confidence that we found the deal together. They've got that safety net and they're more willing to do it when that's the case.
Makes sense.
I stole your line and used that on Marina. She just closed on her first house hack duplex, and she's stressing about it. And I mean, she got into this thing, a $500,000 duplex, top bottom. She's going to rent the upper unit out, which is a 3-bed, 1-bath. She got into the thing for under $10,000. She has the VA loan, so she paid she got like 17 grand in closing costs, rate buy down. She got a 5.1% rate like 3 or 4 days ago when she closed. And I was like, I promise you, if you don't like it, I will assume this mortgage in a heartbeat. I'm mad that I can't buy this right now. So,
and her duplex is geocentric to every economic driver I've mentioned on my list of ones I would like to have.
Right.
Like I list them off and I'm like, yeah, if I have 3 or 4 of those, that's great. She's got about 13.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So if she doesn't want it, Mike, and then you end up not wanting it, track how much money is in there because that'll be your safety net.
No, that's mine.
Mike did all the same work on it like he was buying it.
Oh, dude, I was there for all the inspections. I crawled up on the roof. I was looking over the shoulders of people. Heck yeah, man. I want that money.
CJ Underwood. Howdy. Good morning. Pre-ordered the course and joined the mastermind. Can't wait to grow and bring others to the top together. Awesome. Look forward to seeing you there. I look forward to contributing, being a part of that, being in the one-on-one sessions where we help develop.
It's really nice because it can be completely uncensored.
Yeah. So actually, I saw
what's
that
code for?
I saw that today on Investment Joy. Investment Joy was talking on a thing where he says there's things I can do in my mastermind that this is a thought I hadn't had before. There are thoughts we can't talk about because they literally demonetize your channel.
Correct.
But they're things you need to know as an investor.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's literally about 70% of one of the modules where it's all the things that you can't say elsewhere. Just is.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start doing that in the members only. Like,
good
here's
idea.
a little bit of transparency I wouldn't put out into YouTube world.
Yep.
Chester, I saw last Sunday's live on replay and wanted to check it out. Apologize for hijacking the thread for a few seconds. Fair enough. And then All Nighter actually says he's actually done some deals for what he called little old ladies, and for almost free.
All Nighter is being
he's
modest,
sexist
right
and
now.
ageist, and
he's a ladies' man. I can tell just by watching some of the videos he puts out. I'm sure he's doing some free work behind the scenes. He's comping that one. All Nighter, don't lie. We know why. Yeah, little old ladies, please.
So Cody, I want to read this because this could take us down a great rabbit hole. I was a financial advisor for 3 years, and now I regret putting money into 401k, Roth, IRA, etc. back then. And here's what I want to understand. I should have put all in NQ accounts. Someone with a brain. What's an NQ account? Or the three of us here who don't know.
It might be a non-qualified account.
So that's when my brain went to mortgage non-qualified. So we're going to need Cody a little more information on that because you piqued my interest. So what would a financial advisor say, looking back, this is what I should have done? Because I get when you're a financial advisor, and this is no attack on you, this is on the ones that I've interacted with. Here's the products that are going to pay me the most money. So this is why I'm going to suggest it's what you invest in. That's been my experience with financial advisors. And it was actually pretty rough. So I spent a lot of time on Joint Base Lewis McCourt last decade, basically trying to help service members, spouses, and dependents figure out how to have gainful employment, how to find jobs, a whole thing we call this hidden job market in the transportation industry, all the office and warehouse jobs that nobody was applying for. So I was helping people transition out. I didn't spend a lot of time trying to educate people on real estate, financial freedom, because no one can hear a word until they're ready. And they're ready when they find your channel, when they're looking for this kind of content. They're not looking for it when they're getting out of the military. But a lot of military people getting out become financial advisors because the companies go, you know how to talk to veterans. You could sell our product to more veterans. And they come in. So I interacted with a ton of guys that were getting out and were basically being told, our company makes the most money from these products, so these are the products you need to push. Doesn't really actually matter which one's best for the client. This is what we're going to make the money from. And almost every time that they get hired, they feel like they've got this new way to help veterans. They're going to help create financial freedom. They would come to me and they would say, hey, you're a veteran. You know, you have access to some of these funds. And I would go, I invest in real estate. And that's all I had to say. It would slam the garage door down. They wouldn't even make eye contact. And they would go, oh, okay, cool. That's a good choice. And they'd walk away because they would know they couldn't make any money off of somebody who actually understands how money works. So if you could tell us what does NQ accounts mean to you, that would be awesome.
He said non-qualified account. That when and down on the bottom of the chat when you were talking about that, he specified
so non-qualified basically, and again, I'm not a big investment guy, but my understanding of a non-qualified account basically just means that you can pull it out at any time.
Okay, that makes sense. So they don't have that paywall to have access to it.
Right. I could be wrong, but if that's what it is, it could be what he was referring to.
So there's a great question here, and I really don't want to sound tacky when this comes out. And anytime I talk retirement accounts, I get excited and I talk fast. So it sounds like I'm attacking or condescending, and I'm not, because every person's situation is different. And there are some people who should have retirement accounts because they shouldn't be investors. They literally should never be an investor. They can't handle the stress of watching the stock market go up and down. They can't handle watching tweets affect what happens in the crypto world. Maybe they don't want employees, so they're not going to invest in a business. And there is a little bit of stress that comes along with owning rentals. So I get it. People shouldn't do this if they can't handle that. So Lisa asks, have you looked, and this is the reason I wanted to preface it with that, Lisa, is because it's probably not going to be visceral, but I'm going to explain why this is pitched by so many people and it's such a bad idea. Have you looked into self-directed 401k where you buy a property in the 401k, or have you considered borrowing against your 401k to use it as a down payment? I don't know much about either. So thank you so much for saying you don't know much about either, because that's exactly who we're trying to talk to, is the people who have gone, well, that birth thing, that sounds really good. Like, you don't have to use your own money and you can do this over and over and over. And okay, well, here's the real information, right? So they can make a more informed decision. You lose almost all of the benefits of owning real estate if it's in a self-directed retirement account. It becomes earned income. And the whole point of investing in real estate, to me, it's not the way the term is defined in English, but the IRS calls investing in rental properties passive income, which lets you depreciate, lets you use write-offs. You don't have that with a self-directed 401k. And you can't self-manage. So while Mike does invest out of state and uses a property manager, sure, that might work with his self-directed 401k. But imagine, Mike, how much money you'd pay in taxes if you didn't have depreciation going on. And then you house hack locally. Imagine if you couldn't house hack because you can't invest in a property you live in. So you lose the house hacking across the board for self-directed IRAs. The people who benefit from retirement accounts are the government for the taxes, the employer for retaining you, and the company managing the 401k. And the rental property in a self-directed 401k is still benefiting other people, and you lose too many of the benefits. The borrowing against your 401k, it's like taking out a home equity line of credit, doing a cash out refinance, or selling for a 1031 exchange. The first question is, do you have an asset that you know you can purchase, not think, but know you can purchase for the price you know you would get, that will justify the debt on the existing asset? You're creating debt on your retirement account that has a charge, that has a fee. That fee and that debt repayment has to be factored into the purchase. So I don't recommend doing it on your first, second, or maybe even third deal in real estate, because that's when we tend to make our biggest mistakes. Once you have your system down and you have the cash flow from rentals and you realize this might be the path, and the retirement account isn't your only safety net and path to retirement at all, then it makes more sense to borrow against it, not to self-direct. That's my opinion. Did I get it close to what you guys would think? Matt?
Yeah, let
Mike?
me chat about this real quick. So my mentor Mark has a self-directed IRA. Him and his wife, they both invested into Roth IRAs. So now there is a difference between a Roth and just a regular self-directed IRA, because the Roth means that everything that occurs within that IRA is actually tax-free. So if you liquidate all of the money in your Roth IRA, it's currently invested into stocks, you turn it all into cash, and then you use that cash to go buy a rental property. Well, if you hold that rental property for 10 years and it goes up in value a whole bunch and you sell it, there's no capital gains tax on it because it's within a Roth IRA. There's no taxes that you pay. When that rental property earns income, that income goes into the Roth IRA account, not into your private account. It goes into the Roth IRA account, but you're not going to pay income on it. However, you wouldn't pay income on it anyways, because you would, if it wasn't within the Roth, if it was just a traditionally owned rental property, you would have the depreciation and everything that Dion's talking about. You wouldn't pay taxes on that income anyways. It's a strategy that some people use. I can see how there is some value to it if you already have a large retirement account that's currently invested into something like stocks, and you really don't want to pay the penalty to withdraw that money prematurely, how you might be happier to convert that to cash and buy a rental property. However, I think Dion's correct, and it makes much more sense to me to buy the properties outside of a Roth IRA, because why delay yourself the ability to get at those assets without having to pay some type of penalty early? But possibly it might be a good solution for you. The thing that Mark did that was smart, he bought a 9-house package deal. And the investor he was getting the seller finance deal from wanted 20% down for all the houses. Well, Mark said, what if I just convert my entire retirement account to cash, pay 100% cash for one house, because you can't get a mortgage within your Roth IRA, your self-directed Roth IRA. What if I paid 100% cash for one of these 9 houses? That would be the equivalent of 20% spread out across all these houses. So then he was able to buy one house completely within the Roth IRA and structure the deal so the other 8 houses were given to him outside of the Roth IRA. He owns them and has a seller finance payment between him and the seller financer. So he structured it where that was his down payment, 100% of that house. So there are some very unique, complex ways in which you could maybe make this work for you. But I don't think that it is where anybody should start. Don't think it's a great idea. Somebody who watches the channel who commented earlier, Marco Shiro, big retirement account. He's a firefighter in Honolulu, Hawaii. Good dude, also a real estate agent. Converted his entire retirement account into cash, pulled it out, and bought 14 rentals. Now, I'm not saying get that aggressive that quickly, but there's a reason why he did it like that instead of the more complex method that I just described for you. So maybe, but probably Dion's strategy is much better.
So when it comes to retirement accounts, I think this kind of conversation makes a lot of sense for somebody who's trapped a couple $100,000 in a retirement account. So if you're looking at going forward, the average person who doesn't invest, sure, have a retirement account. But if you have an investing strategy where you can put your money to work with a confidence in your expectation of getting a return and the appreciation and the pay down and all the things that are going to happen, contribute for the match. Don't do the maximum. Get the free money, right? There is a use for retirement accounts, and I always want to cover this really before we just dismiss retirement accounts entirely. There was a time it benefited me to have one, and that is lenders will look at it as a reserve. 50% of the money that's in a retirement account can count as a reserve when you're making a purchase. If you find the right deal and you need to go below what your reserve threshold would be, you don't need to tap the money or take it out. You just need to prove that it's there, that it's seasoned, it's actually yours, has a known source, and then later. I'm in the thing of take it out and put it in a rental. There was a question in here and I missed who asked it, but it was, would you take the money out before or after the new year? And that totally depends on how much you made this year, how much you expect to make it next year, what you're going to do with the money, what the tax implications would be. Not something we could say in an open format. So here's a blanket answer to that. That is every individual and company looks at their end of their tax year and should make decisions based on what the taxes are going to do. We don't invest and let the taxes make the decision, but at the end of the year, the decisions we make can be impacted by those taxes. And then we have somebody who joined as a membership, Conjure. Howdy, welcome to the group. We talk about having cookies, the internet cookies, but generally being a member, we do live streams 2 Friday afternoons in a month where we talk about things that now I'm realizing would demonetize my channel. And then we got some people checking in from Lake Stevens. Howdy, Alex. In your opinion, so this is Nick. Howdy. That was the one before after the new year. Red Berserker. Howdy. I actually don't know that I've seen you comment before, so hopefully I'm not just forgetting, because that's my thing. Do any of the one rental at a time alums have investor experience with FHA loans? Everyone I see who recommends them have never used one. I have never used an FHA loan. Mike?
I thought that I was going to use an FHA loan because I wanted to get owner-occupied financing, 3.5% down owner-occupied financing on my first house hack. I thought that's what I would have to use. But when I went and spoke to my lender, she said, actually, we can get you owner-occupied financing with as little as 5% down in a conventional loan. And the conventional loan was better. So I think most people think that the FHA loan is the only loan you can get the low down payment for. It's not. You can actually do conventional loans like that. So talk to a lender. I have not used one. You're right. I haven't used one.
And I haven't either. I did the same thing, 5% down conventional on my first house hack. The FHA loan, a lot of people think it means first time home buyer because it has FH in it. And it just means Federal Housing Authority. All right. It is intended to help you get on the property ladder when sometimes you shouldn't. It's saying you have a bad debt to income ratio and you have a bad credit rating. So here's a property you can buy. So it gets marketed as this, here's how we fix housing. And everybody glosses over. Your first conventional loan on a single family house is 3%. You can put as little as 3% down conventional owner occupied. So a house with an ADU even 3%. When you go up to duplex, a lot of lenders start looking at 15 or 20%, but you can hunt for those lenders that will do 5% down conventional on a duplex. Triplex or fourplex, I haven't seen very many. I haven't actually seen it where they will take less than 15% down. So then FHA might look more attractive, even if you have good credit, good debt to income, and want to do the loan down payment.
So I've done an FHA. I did an FHA 203K streamline. Took 90 days to close the deal. It was horrible, but did an FHA, and that was in 2010. So 12 years ago, 13 years ago. So yeah, FHA. So it's 3.5% down, then a 203K streamline, which is a mini construction loan with only 2 payouts and only 1 inspection, and it's capped at $35,000. But yeah, I've been done a lot of those. And then conventional, they also will do 5% on a 3 and a 4 unit, but it then has to pass a special debt ratio that they use of 75% of the rents get counted, and that has to cover the mortgage. And so that's where you kind of end up usually in an issue where you're then kind of slicing and dicing things, where then you'll see the down payment creep up. There are cities in the country where those can work. But in a lot of cities, they don't work just based on actual rents and and the percentages. So, yep, done them all.
Yeah, the drawback, the big drawback isn't always down payment. I actually preferred to do more down because I didn't want to be like 270,000 homeowners right now that are underwater. Not that it ever mattered, because I didn't plan on selling, right? But I wanted an equity position, so I would like to do down payment. The part to me that really mattered, because I have a VA loan. I've never used it. I don't want to do 0 down. I might, and now because I'm so far low on the leverage to value, but it's that PMI goes away automatically with a conventional, and you have to refi on FHA.
Yeah.
And FHA is more picky about going 4-3-2-1 or into a bigger house and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Then I see we have Dividend Dave here, and I'm actually going to read this because this is what you get when you do a super chat. unless I have to cuss, I will read what you put. But so first, it's Siberia, or Hoth 2.0 for the nerds out there.
Nice.
Right, exactly. North Carolina, it is 19 degrees here. That is why I'm wearing the non-truck driver jacket, as Matt said before we started the video. You can actually tell I'm not working in transportation anymore.
And for the record, it's 51 here. So suck it.
It's 51 in Vegas, where we're all going to be in not too many days. So
yeah, a few days. Yeah.
We're teasing that out already.
So I know we're going to be doing videos from there. So we're teasing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're not doing an event. We're not doing a public gathering or anything like that. We're going to go throw some axes, go to a range.
Men doing manly things.
So weird. Right. Exactly. Oh yeah. I'm going to totally enjoy manly things. I'm watching Ka and Mystique. Right. Do those count?
Ka's pretty manly.
Is it? Okay. But I've only seen brief things. So
yeah. I liked Ka's good. Yeah.
Nice. And then I like this dividend, Dave. Maybe we can make this a thing going forward in the future. Jingle bells, school smells, cash flow all the way. That should be like the title of this video. I love it.
Well,
that cash flow will do on the algorithm.
What's that, Mike? I'm sorry.
I don't know how that would do on the algorithm. Jingle bells, school smells.
I'll try it. I will make that video.
You'll have more Pokemon emoticons and PJ Mask emoticons in the comments than you've ever had before.
Hey, Dave, send me a short video on your phone of you singing that.
Okay. He'll do it.
Me?
for the 7 views the algorithm gives us, we'll see. I think cash flow in the title, though. Seasonality, time of year.
Yeah,
I think he's onto something. And then make sure I'm not missing any of those kind of chats. Okay. All-Nighter Hider says also maybe an option just to get on the property ladder. Do what you have to. That's the best option. All others exhausted. Dividend Dave in the house. I think I missed an All-Nighter Hider. Yep. Question from All-Nighter. Pros and cons of assuming a VA loan from your properties. Have you put much thought into that? Assuming taking what you're right, a VA loan.
Well, I don't have access to a VA loan. I would absolutely assume one, depending on what the details of the house. I think you run. I think creative financing. I think sub 2 is a great idea. I think that the best in the business is Pace Morby. And as far as sub 2 goes, specifically sub 2, creative finance, Cody and Christian multifamily, they're amazing at it. But I think on assuming a VA loan, yeah, I think on assuming a loan, you have to qualify for that loan just like you normally would when you assume it. Because assumption is that the bank, when it's sub 2, you're not using any of your own cash, any of your own credit, or any of your own credentials. When it's actually assuming a loan, you're using, in some cases, cash, definitely your own credentials, without a doubt. And I don't know if I could, because I'm past the Fannie Freddie limit of 10, and usually the VA falls under that. They have like the 1 or 2, but they also wouldn't allow like a Fannie past 10. So I don't know if I could, but would I? Yeah, I would just evaluate the deal like I would any other deal.
That's it. Evaluate the deal like you would anything else. The first thing you'd have to do is educate yourself on what are the requirements.
Yes.
Some people would think I'm not a veteran, I can't do that. That's not true. So find out what the requirements are and make sure you meet them. And then anytime it comes to subject to creative financing, first, I love what Cody and Christian do, because their strategy is building a relationship with the seller that isn't about selling or buying their product, their properties, right? They start with, how'd you do what you do? Teach me what you did so we can do something like that. And once the conversation started, who knows where it's going to go? Well, it's gone into over 100 units, right?
Right.
When it comes to Pace Morby, you're right. If we would say, who's the powerhouse in subject 2, it's Pace Morby. But would I do a subject to deal?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even entertain it, no matter the deal that was presented to me. It's not my thing. So I would, if I was going to do it, I would go and educate myself on what PACE has done. I would take in a couple hundred hours of content. I might take the course, and then I would go, okay, so here's how it works. Here's what I would do. Here are all the things I need to do. All of my deals are from the MLS, all with conventional lending. Nothing creative, right? To do it. The problem that we run into is people that are just starting out hear about a sexy, non-traditional way of doing something that has historically over thousands of years been the way millionaires have been made in every economy ever, is to buy rentals where somebody pays you more than the mortgage costs you, whether it's a 100-year mortgage in Japan or whether it's an adjustable rate mortgage that can't go longer than 5 years in Canada or the UK. Buying properties the way everyone else is, no one wants to do it because it's boring and it's not sexy and it takes 5 years to hit any kind of speed on the treadmill. But those 5 years are worth it. The boring and sexy and safe way where no lender changing their stance 2 or 3 years from now can change the way my investing is going to go. So it's a great strategy if you put yourself into it. Like, I will never say don't invest in crypto. I will say I won't. I will never say don't invest in stocks. I will say I don't, right? I will tell people, unless you do what I did with some self-education, you probably shouldn't invest in real estate either.
Yeah.
So All-Nighter said that the specific situation he's talking about, apparently his dad is a Vietnam recon vet, which thanks for your dad's service, Hyder. So it sounds like I'd be wanting to piggyback off of his benefits. So if you were assuming a loan and going through those contracts, but it was with your own father, the odds that something shady happens to you probably go down significantly. So it's probably a little bit safer for you to do that. However, I don't know if it would be any type of mortgage fraud if your dad used his VA benefits with the express purpose of then turning the loan over to you right away. So you might want to check into that one, buddy, just to protect yourself.
Yeah, that does change the whole situation when it's someone that you know, let alone someone you're related to. Yeah. So we've been doing this for an hour on a random Friday. Hopefully we've been able to say it's okay to make work optional and eventually not work at all, never work again in your life. Some people say if you find something you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, if you find something that you love to do and you don't have to worry about the compensation, I think you never work a day in your life. I'm going to give it one more minute for any more questions.
Yeah, okay, well, I've got the topics. I've got the questions because I'm concerned here. I've been reading a lot of articles, Dion, Matt, about rents plummeting nationwide. Reventure Consulting has made his return to YouTube, featured on someone's channel who somebody you guys might know might be in the process of writing and doing an entire deconstructive takedown exposed video on this guy, because he's out here saying that not only are prices probably going to crash 30 to 40%, but that the rental rate market is collapsing. So please put a little context around that for me, fellas. How could I buy a rental if it's going to just collapse what it can even rent for down the road? What's this looking like long term?
Well, first, I want to read it. Sorry.
Clearly, leaving YouTube for a month didn't make him any smarter.
Clearly.
Listen, at the end of the day, we're going to hear it from everybody. And it doesn't matter. I talk to other landlords. I'm not looking at what the stats say or what he can poke out for some Zillow thing. And what people that aren't operators and people that don't do this work on the daily, what they don't understand is that he can sensationalize rents are collapsing because he is able to look at Zillow. He looks at Zillow estimates. Does that show you how little he knows about housing? Like, the Zillow estimate means absolutely nothing. And people that are actually in the market, we know that. And so the challenge becomes, again, he's been gone for whatever it is, 4, 6, 8 weeks, and it didn't make him any smarter. He just was probably looking for the next spreadsheet to, make a 300,000 view video about. But I think, again, at the core of it, I talk to landlords literally every single day, and not one of them has said, I lowered my rent. And here in the Northeast, renting shuts off for November, December, and January. It just shuts off because it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, it's New Year's, and then on top of that, it's snow. snow on the ground, a foot, it's freezing, it's icy. Like 97% of leases expire between like March and October. Like 97%. So the market is so skinny when people looking for a home. Like there's plenty of people looking right now, and they're almost all on a program, and they want to use that program to get the place rented. So, I mean, he can wish in one hand and you know what in the other. It's just not the way it is. And our A-class properties reducing in price, of course, because if there's anything coming online, it's A-class. But the A-class where we are, and you saw it, Mike, they're $3,000 a month for a 2-bedroom. Their cost basis is probably $2,200 or $2,300. My 2 bedrooms, I can rent out for lower than their cost basis and be making 40%. So it's just like it always is, which is the A-class units get hit because when people get conservative or lose their jobs, they need a place to live. And so they down select to a B or a C class because no one's moving into D to be unsafe. They'll figure out whatever they need to do to have shelter in the C or B class area. So best wishes to them.
Right. So the rents are crashing. People, they're going to be there. They're going to be all over because syndications were projecting 5 or 10% increases
Correct.
for the next 3 years for their deal to work. And if they're not going to be able to do that, they're going to say, well, it's not our fault. All the rents crashed.
Right.
Not we projected 5 or 10, and last year we had over 20. So this year we're not going to see any. That's what they should have been projecting.
Right.
But I wanted to read a comment of somebody from the Crash Bros world. And I've seen him comment on those channels. And I want to make sure I give credit where it's due. If somebody goes and puts a comment like Laura Simoniago the other day put a comment up, and I literally took it and I showed it to some friends. I said, look, this is how I think my content is impacting people. Look at how great this comment is she put. So I want to give credit where it's due. So on the other side of the spectrum is Tebow Time 46. And this is in my video talking about the 270,000 people who are underwater in their videos on their mortgages. A housing crash is coming as sure as your wife divorcing you and leaving you with $90,000 in debt. So at least he watches my content.
Right,
He knows what's happened in my life.
The answer that I would give him
leave.
is clearly
That's not how
his
that
knowledge
went,
about
but-
the housing market is about as good as his knowledge on picking NFL quarterbacks.
So here's the problem with the Crash Bros. First, they say 20 or 30%. Just flat out ignoring that in 100 years, the biggest crash we've seen in a 12-month period was 8.9%, right? So they're going to say, oh, it's going to be 20% by the end of summer. That doofus said that. Then we get him coming back going, oh, rents are crashing. That's going to crash the market. We all invest like we expect rents to go down up to 50% and still be solvent, right? And we've never seen it.
Right.
But if a housing crash happened, if prices dropped, they say it like that would be bad for us.
Yeah, you don't
Like
understand.
our equity
Dion.
is what matters. And so they watch enough of the content to figure out how to attack, right? Like on a personal level, go like, yep, obviously there's going to be a crash. Over 2 years of those channels calling for a crash every single, I want to say month, but week with a video. Here's the crash. Here's the reason. Here's the crash. Wrong for 2 years. People listening to them missing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars in appreciation on the average house. But they're right now, right?
Well, and here's the thing too. The conversation has always been around median home prices. The median home price nationally has still not gone down. And that's just a fact. My market, if you're sub median home price, you're on the market for maybe 2 weeks and you're closed. Like you're under agreement. Like you're still like 9, 12, 14 days and you're under contract if you're a sub median house. So I get it. Like paint the picture as much as you want. Like, I mean, all I can tell you is I hope that I'd love to know where you invested your money. I'd love to know where you invested yours. You either A, didn't have any to invest, or B, whatever you did have to invest, you invested somewhere else. Great. Show me where you invested. Tell me where you invested it.
They don't need to invest. YouTube money will be around for them forever.
Yeah. No. I mean the people watching them.
Right. Okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah. I mean the people watching them, because that's the thing is the negativity bias, that's not going anywhere. So people can still put up trash that one chart might, they think, prove, but the people that are watching that stuff, okay, fine. It's going to go down 20 or 25%. You shouldn't buy. Great. What money do you have that you're investing, and where are you investing it?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that.
And if somebody wants to step up, I'll be more than happy to put $10,000 in an escrow account, and we can go head to head on whatever your investment is over the next 12 months versus what my investment is over the next 12 months. And we'll see who has a bigger return any day. 10 grand in an account, winner takes it.
So here we have a question from Cody. Cody, I appreciate you being here. You were here at the beginning and you're here still. This is great. I'm debating on lowering rent on one of my units that's available right now. I think the amount is fine, but this time of year is tough. Should I stick it out or cut? So the first question is, what was the rent of the person who was moving out? What is the rent you have it listed at? And if you drop it, are you going below last year's, what the previous tenant was at? How many years were they in it? How many increases have you done? How does your rent compare to area average? And how long have you had it listed? If you're hundreds of dollars above area average and you have it listed for 3 or 4 weeks, you overshot. If you just listed it and you're at area average, I wouldn't do any cuts now. And remember, before a rent decrease, here's a concept I hope you can take away, Cody. This is very important. A lot of people think, so a brand new investor goes, what if I have a vacant unit, right? I have to cover the mortgage. That's the big fear. Then later we realize, well, there's always a line of people waiting to rent it, but what do they want? Do they qualify? How much do they want to pay? So you might have to lower the rent to get them in. So that's where our brain goes. Before you see an apartment complex, I want you to run your properties like you have 100 and treat your tenants like you only have 1, right? So if you see an apartment complex that has 100 units, they don't lower the rent. What do? So I want you to have this system like you had 100 units. They do a concession. They say, here's the rent, but it's the middle of winter. How'd you like to move in with half a month rent off, or a full month's rent off? Sounds like a lot. Take half off or take a month off. Now, it would be better if you just went down $100, right? And spread it out over the year instead of taking it all at once. But what you do if you take it now is it's like having a little bit more of a delay to get somebody in, right? So you miss out on that little bit of money now. But the rent is set at an amount where now it's consistent. You get a good qualified tenant who thinks that's normal, so that next year when there's an increase, you're not coming up from what you lowered it to. You're coming up from what they agreed to with that caveat of a discount to get in. That's what apartment complexes do. Their systems work. So that's what a newer investor can be doing when you only have 1 or 2 units.
Another thing you can do too is, so 2 more things. One is you can contact your housing department in your area. That is absolutely something that I would do, because they likely have vouchers that they're trying to fill, and that number that they're willing to pay might be higher than what you were renting it out for before. It might not be as much as what you wanted, but it likely is more than what it was before, especially if that unit was lived in for any amount of time. The other thing too is that, to Dion's point, you can absolutely do like a, rental or some sort of incentive. But one of the other items that I would look at outside of the housing part of it is I would look to be more specific in your, renting. I would be looking at all the different businesses in the area. And I would be putting, so if I were in Dion's area, I would put calling all, Boeing employees. And then I would do another one that was, calling all, for me, it's the college's Wildcats, and so I post the same unit multiple times to catch people's eyes because they identify with something. And you just got part of the lumberjack landlords, oh shit, I'm a landlord now, but course. There you go.
Yeah, and the other thing to remember, Cody, as you mentioned, you said that it's been up for a week. 1,100 previous rent, 1,100 up for rent now. It's been posted for a week. This is literally the worst week.
Worst week in the year. Yep.
In the entire year is the week leading up to Christmas. I mean, you could not have picked a worse time. Now, I know if you're from the Pacific Northwest like me, you're probably used to things flying off the shelves like crazy when you list them. But buddy, I mean, it's the worst week right now that you could have picked.
Where are you located, Cody? So that might be the way it is in Indiana, but I've placed tenants in December here, and it's this might be the roughest week, but December itself, there's a lot of familial changes around the holidays that cause people to look for places to rent, to put that PC.
And if you get any consistency of snow on the ground, November, December, January are the worst.
And we are having a cold snap, so it depends on where you're at.
Yeah.
Scott asked a great question. Would you ever invest in Alaska? What is your pros and cons, everybody and anybody? So hopefully some people have some answers, especially if they're from Alaska, but I'll let you guys answer. Here's my experience with Alaska. It's not as strong as my experience with Hawaii. I've never been to Hawaii, but here's my experience with Hawaii. Hawaiians hate mainlanders. So I don't want to go there. One of the reasons I chose Colombia and Thailand to travel to is because they still like Americans. I don't want to go to Europe. Everything I used to hear in Europe is how much they hate Americans. So why go there? I went to Alaska, and yes, there was a heavy tourist parts where they're pretty friendly, but most of Alaska feels like they're separate and don't want outsiders. So if you're an outsider investing there, expect to be treated like an outsider. That's my limited experience with it. So if I was going to invest in Hawaii, I'd find out the place that was most friendly to somebody who's not Hawaiian. What are your guys' thoughts?
Anchorage is pretty awesome because there's a base there. So it's got that high transplant factor. And then the other thing too, Phil Nealand, who watches a lot of our stuff, he's in Alaska. So I've had a lot of friends that lived up there. They absolutely loved it. It means I know nothing about the housing market there, but yeah, generally speaking, the friends that I've had that were stationed there for a while absolutely loved it.
In every real estate market in the country, whether it's Seattle, whether it's Alaska, whether it's Gary, Indiana, there's people who are investing successfully and there's people who are not investing successfully.
Sure.
What you need to do is find the successful investors, befriend these people, network with them, and then copy and paste their strategies. I don't really think that there's any one market that's the best market. Lots of markets have different things about them that are fantastic. So if you want to invest in Alaska, somebody up there is the king of Alaska real estate. Somebody. All right. And maybe they could see Russia from their house. I don't know. But like there's probably someone who can help you figure out how to see a good deal from your house. So that's what I'd be aiming for.
Look for Phil Nealand in the chat.
There you go. Find the local investor, just like picking any market. Like you said, somebody is investing there successfully. Doomer Dad, great name. Howdy. From Northwest Indiana.
Oh, man.
An A-class area, had to drop my initial rent. The people wanting it went good, lowered it, and got a superb tenant. So awesome. So here's a kind of way of looking at rents. And one of the reasons why we chose Class C. That doesn't mean Class A doesn't work, but you have to be ready for this with reserves and the ability to adjust your rent like you did. Since we started tracking the data, right? We're over half a century of never seeing rents drop market-wide. In a 5-year period, rents have either plateaued or gone up. Except in 2009, Class A properties dropped enough to make it look like the market went down for a bit. So in a 5-year period, it's definitely up. But in that one little dip, Class A took the biggest hit. So if you are investing in Class A and economic difficulties happen, make sure you're investing with a margin to compress rents, compress that margin, and still be able to survive.
Yeah, I did an entire video about what happens to rents during a recession. And I'm actually working on another video right now because so many people are talking about the collapse of rent rates. And so I'm going to actually dive into the stats and the data on that. But yeah, what Dion said is during a recession, during tough economic times, everybody looks to move down. A's move to B's, B's to C's, C's to D's, and D's go back home and live with their parents. But there's nobody to move down to an A. An A encompasses everything from Class A all the way up to the height of luxury living. Well, in a recession, even the rich and famous look to pull their belts just a little bit tighter. So yeah, if you have Class A properties, that's the only area where you're probably a little more exposed to having to do rent decreases. Anywhere else, according to Dion's research and my own, over a 5-year period, there has never, in the history they've tracked this over 115 years, there's never been a 5-year period where rents were down 5 years from 5 years earlier, ever. Brief drops, but that recovered very quickly, and again, are usually led by Class A rentals, and then they recover very quickly.
So first a comment, Mark Ham, howdy. I'm moving out of my house hack this week. It sucks. So that reminds me that I think we should probably do a video on when to end house hacking.
As personally,
right? So so
dude,
Mark, if you're doing it,
we'd still be doing it if Ashley was up for it.
Well, I think you're still doing a version of it. Here's the and this is why I want to make the video. So here's the Cliff Notes version without the research that's going to go into it. But we house hack to lower our housing cost, our biggest expense, right? Lower or eliminate. Like I'm on the negative side. I'm getting paid now $2,500 a month to live here. That doesn't suck. If I moved out and rented this property, this unit, for as much or more than the place I rent or move to or purchase, I still house hacked my way to it. So Mark, if you're moving out, moving out of your house hack and you rent that place out, as long as that rent is covering part of it, you're still continuing to house hack. It's just in the beginning, it's a way to impact your saving rate bigger than almost anything else we can do. Once you have 3 or 4 rentals, that's why I want to do the video, is at what point is the tipping point where now if I just rent the place out, because if I had bought that first duplex, and at the time I could have rented it for probably $1,300, and I was paying $1,500 in an apartment, right? I moved in and I dropped mine down to where I was only paying $300. So I technically was saving $1,200. I would have been saving that much if I wasn't house hacking. I wouldn't have got the better interest rate and I wouldn't have got the low down payment. So it's the benefits to that you've already taken advantage of, Mark, that got you there. And it was supposed to be a short comment before I got to Sierra's question. So I haven't read this yet, so hopefully I don't butcher it. Sierra Smith, howdy. If I buy my first deal now and use my $35,000 to get into it, 9.5% yield, 250 month cash flow, and lending markets tighten and values plateau, it feels like I won't have much leverage to get into the next deal for maybe even longer than 5 years, especially while building up my vacancy and repairs funds. Can you recommend a strategy to use in this scenario so I don't get into someone and stall for a decade? Do I need more lucrative deal for my first one? That is a beautiful question. And I'm glad you have the 3 of us here, because there's 2 versions of real estate. I mean, there's thousands, but there's 2 that I like to talk about the most. What you're referencing is recycling capital. You want equity so you can sell in 1031, cash out, refinance, or take out a home equity line of credit. All the things I've never done and don't want to do. Like I had Lumberjack and Zuber last year at the end of 21 telling me, look, interest rates are really low. You should pull all your money out of this house that you have that's paid off. And great advice for them, because they wanted units and portfolio size and much more cash flow down the road than I have. And I wanted freedom. So if you're looking at growing a massive portfolio where adding units is more important than the cash flow to you, recycling capital is important. So you're talking about investing for appreciation more than this. I wish my properties didn't appreciate. I wish I had a net worth of 0. I'd be able to buy properties in my area for the prices I was paying 5 or 10 years ago if that had happened, because I don't ever plan on touching that equity. I mean, yeah, my kids are going to inherit it. That's great. That's a them problem to deal with, right? They're going to have to pay some taxes. That sucks to get millions to pay a couple $100,000 in taxes. It's the worst thing ever. I wanted the cash flow. $250 a month coming in is going to be life-changing at $35,000 out of pocket. That is a home run first deal. Might not be a home run 10th deal, right? Don't compare year 10 to year 1. Sounds like the deals I would have started. I think that's better than my first couple, I think. That's my opinion, though. I had a 10-year horizon to reach financial freedom and not care about how many units I had. I wanted more money coming in than it cost me to live in multiples. And that kind of deal will do that for you. But for the guys that are here, that's the reason I'm glad you asked the question here, is because you have both sides of the fence. You both chose to recycle capital. In this situation, would you go for a deal like this if you didn't think the appreciation would be there?
Michael?
You want me to go first? All right. Yeah. So Sierra Smith, great question. And you recently sent me I think an Instagram DM with a video you want Michael Zuber to react to. So thanks for participating in that. Appreciate it. This deal right here is very close to the deals that I do in Gary, Indiana, including my 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th deal. This is a good deal, in my opinion, based on what I know right now. I don't know which market this is in. I'm going to assume that you've done the work in your market to know what an average deal is, and the deal you're bringing us right now is a great deal. It's better than average. If it isn't, if you could do better than that, and there's just another house that might come on in a week or so, then yeah, you should do a better deal if that is not already a great deal. I'm going to assume that it is. Looking at the numbers, it looks like a pretty good deal to me. I aim for $250 a month in cash flow. It looks like this is probably a $150,000 house, something like that. And to me, it looks like it's pretty much a no-brainer. To Dion's point about doing the BRRRR strategy, I like the BRRRR strategy. I'm about to close on my second BRRRR in like 5 days. I did really, really well with them and do a whole video on it. I was all in at 55,000 and it appraised at 134,000. That's a really good BRRRR deal. I'm going to get a check written to me for more than my all-in amount. I get a check for 66 grand back, get all my money back and move on to the next property. I would not encourage you or any other new person starting out to start with a BRRRR in any market. It's complex. It's difficult. Even if you have a construction background like me, even if you have a real estate investing background like me, even if you have relationships built with lenders like me, it's still unbelievably difficult, and I would not recommend it for your first deal, but especially not at a time where interest rates are going all over the place. The Fed's rug pulling left and right. Who knows what's going to happen? It is a very, very, very difficult to project what will happen 6 months from now when your property has seasoned enough for you to do the cash out refinance. So unless you have the reserves and the foundation built to cover something not going your way, definitely, I don't think a BRRRR strategy is the right answer for you. I think it's good when you're a beginning investor to get a W on the board. You need a win in your corner. You need to start with your best foot forward. You need to feel the effects of positive effects of investing in real estate. That deal right there to me looks like a great win right out the gate. Rack up 2, 3, 4 of these, then go play the hard game against somebody who's more difficult and risk the potential of a loss.
That was a really good answer.
Perfect. Lisa has a comment here. Howdy, Lisa. Do you use the resource for Section 8 for your rentals as the basis, or do you also look into other sources to decide what your rents should be? I would go to the Lumberjack Landlord's YouTube channel and search for a video called The Rent Box. There, finding out your buy box, the market you want to invest in, the asset type you want to, the yield you're going to look for, the amenities you're going to want. Like, it takes a lot of research. Calculating rents on average takes a couple of weeks to really get a good feel, because what's listed is wish pricing. You don't know if they're going to drop it. You don't know if they're going to have to offer concessions. Tracking what rents quickly, what's gone. I used to use Rentometer, and they were accurate when rents were going up slow, but as soon as rents spiked in 2020, 2021, they're off by 30%. Housing Authority can give you a fair basis. BAH, basic allowance for housing for a military installation in your area, can kind of give you a basis, but they're generally less than what rents will be for the area, because Housing Authority will pay based on bedroom count. They don't count garages. They don't count carports. They don't count extra parking. They don't count anything else in the place but bedroom count. So there's a video on my channel called Setting Rents in a Hot Market that goes through all the criteria for setting rents. That takes literally at least 10 minutes to go through. If one source won't work, you'll see in a lot of videos where people are saying, hey, look at my market, look at my deal. So we pull up Rentometer, we pull up something and we look at just to get a snapshot. But if you're actually going to make a purchase and commit hundreds of thousands of dollars for several decades, you really want to have a good idea of what's going on with rents there.
Yeah. Cleanest way is that rent box that can give you all the direction that you need. And typically housing is the base. That's what I've always seen consistently in using my rent box, is that the market was never less than housing's number.
Nice. Howdy, Doomer Dad. Welcome to the members only. I appreciate it. We'll see you there on like at least 2 Fridays a month currently. We might do a weekend thing because I think some people work. So Zuber's not doing Saturdays anymore, so we might do something on Saturdays. I appreciate it. There's a question here from Chester, which has actually been emailed to me by a couple of people, and then I've referred them to you, Matt. Where can people find your course?
Oh, so the course is, so there is a video on my channel, which is named the same as the course. Oh shit, I'm a landlord, now what? And that takes you through the entire syllabus. And in the description is the link to sign up for the course, and all the pricing and everything is in there. And I won't cover the syllabus because it's literally, I think the video was 17 minutes, and that was me just walking through the syllabus. There's that much there.
Right. But so what I need is a link.
Yes.
To put in my descriptions so I can tell everybody, here's where you find it.
I would send it to you, but I have no internet.
Nice.
Nice.
But I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going into a tunnel. I can't hear you.
Yeah.
So
I've literally
first,
been on my phone. Thank God that that's working.
James J. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Extremely helpful as always. I'm going to make sure I'm not missing a question because there's a question here I want to cover, and I'm going to lose a subscriber, but I want to cover the question. But James, I appreciate that. Hopefully this information is helping you, and you should send me an email because I see you commenting all the time. And this is like to most of the people here who are commenting all the time. I appreciate it. Send me a short, just in an email. Here's what I want to invest in. Here's what my portfolio looks like right now. And that might be, I don't have anything yet, but here's where I want to invest. Whatever it is, I would love to hear. But John Jacob, I have my live stream set to where only subscribers can comment because we get a lot of, we mention crypto or Bitcoin and it just goes out to the bots, and all of a sudden you get all of these things where the subscriber thing tends to keep them out for a while. So you're asking a question and I might not have an answer that you want to hear, but you ask, can you cover NNDM stock? 1.3 billion in cash, 60 million market cap. No. I'm sorry. I wouldn't own a stock if someone gave it to me. I would sell it and put the money into real estate. So I don't know what 50% of the words in that sentence mean. I don't even use cap rate on real estate for a couple of reasons. Mike is going, oh, you're going to lose people, so I'm just going to give you some money for the people you're losing because you're talking about stocks. And I totally get it. If you invest in stocks and you put the time and self-education into stocks that I put into real estate, there are millions of people who are successful. And it isn't always the stock picker, day trader, people who study one stock. I don't know. Historically, I've heard most of them lose money, like a significant amount, like 80, 90%. But if you're diversified and you're into portfolios and you go for ones with track records, there are ways that I don't understand that you can make money at that way. Same with crypto. Same with running a business. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm an investor. So maybe one of these guys could give you some information on stocks, but this is definitely not a stock channel. It's a financial freedom channel where I will tell you that investing in stocks and putting your money to work is better than working for a job and hoping for a pension to be there and getting caught living on opium. But I definitely can't give you advice on any specific stock. I couldn't even say right now, oh yeah, Meta's down 53%. It's the time to buy it on sale, because maybe they completely failed at VR and are done, right? So I can't say this is the bottom. Yeah, so fair question, not the answer you probably wanted. Sorry. And then Mark Ham threw in here. We've got 1 more minute left because Mike, I have to get out of here before Mike gives me his paycheck. Mark Ham says, of course, it's a 2 to 4 unit house hack. I've got her on board to real estate to start with the help of all 4 of you guys. Awesome. Nice.
Awesome.
Cool. Who loses more money gambling in Vegas, Dion or Lumberjack? So first, okay, we're going to take a little more than a minute.
Taking bets.
Did you say anything else? Okay, I'm just saying, here it goes. When I had no money, right? So last 2 years in the Marines, I actually worked in Vegas. So I was in Vegas a lot. I was stationed in 29 Palms. I went there almost every weekend. I had a great job in Vegas that I'm not going to talk about on YouTube. Anyways, my OnlyFans link is going to be in the chat. When I had no money, I gambled. I had what I thought was a great system for 21. Face cards are a negative number. Little cards are a positive number. And when the number gets to a certain amount, because you want a 6-deck shoe, that's going to bust the dealer and you don't have to bust, and I could make decent money. But it was obvious, and I got thrown out of every casino I went into. After 20 or 30 minutes, when you start making bet adjustments that they recognize, they just kick you out. As soon as I got some money, like I actually started making money off rentals and side hustles, and I was putting money to work. I haven't gambled since. I don't have a problem with gambling. I'll take $100 and throw it on a 21 table, especially with friends play Texas Hold'em or something. So I don't have a problem with gambling. It's easier to make money investing than it is to win it. And it feels more rewarding when the money just shows up in your bank account and you didn't have to work for it, even work for it at a gambling table. So in this case, I would say my money is on Matt losing more and my money is on Matt winning more.
What a shock. You picked the middle of the road.
So weird.
Human Switzerland.
Peacemaker.
I only gamble for fun. And so it's like, if I sit there for 2 or 3 hours, I like to watch for the table where there's some guy that's playing with $10,000 chips. I like to sit down next to him because it's fun. I like watching that. I'm just like, better him than me. One of my most fun times I ever had, I was sitting down at a table playing Pai Gow poker, and the guy was playing 25,000 a hand.
And you were playing with him? Wait, like, what's the minimum buy on? Dude, I wouldn't even be allowed in that room, let alone at the table, bro.
It was $100. Yeah, it was
just $100. No big deal. A couple of bennies.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, like, so the house is definitely in favor in that deal, but it's a very slow game. And so to do an entire hand takes literally, can take 3 to 5 minutes. And then even with the house odds, like that might mean that I might spend a couple $100 there, if I had a typical time, or I get a couple $100. It's usually I'm kind of like Jerry Seinfeld. I'm kind of even or slightly ahead. And so I'll sit there for a couple hours and I will watch somebody in the course of the hour that I sat there, he lost probably $200,000.
Jeez.
And he was putting his white chips in a fanny pack. It was fun to watch. And they don't let you stand behind people like that at the tables.
Right.
So I sat to play. It's fun. But yeah, I only do it as a form of entertainment. So if I win, awesome. But I win that so little is on the line that you don't feel alive when you win. You're like, yay. So yeah. So I will definitely. So Dion's middle of the road was exactly right. I will either lose more or win more than him, but it's only because he probably won't play.
So really quick before we wrap this up, I'm gonna say thank you really quick to Anna K. Thank you very much for the super chat, and thank you for thanking us. We appreciate it. We hope the information is helpful. I love what you're doing. Are you on your trip now? I know you were going, I think, for the first time in a while to where your actual rental is. Let us know how the trip goes. I look forward to. I'm pretty sure I'll be at the next Tacoma FI meetup. I might be in Vegas, but I think I'll be here. So I'll have to look at the calendar. I will see you there. And then the last thing I'm going to ask for is a quick favor, not in the comments here, but after we close this down, in the comments below the video. So close down the live chat, and if you can, leave a comment. I'm taking a poll. Christmas Day. Afternoon. Live stream. Would you care? Would you show up? Would you want to see one? Are you even going to be thinking financial freedom or real estate when it comes to, and it looks like Matt is here in the Zoom, but he dropped off of YouTube.
Here I am.
No, you're here on Zoom, but you're not on YouTube.
He did drop off on YouTube.
Yeah, that's funny.
Maybe when it streams it automatically drops in.
Weird.
Futureland is messing with us.
There he is.
So I hope everybody has a wonderful, whichever holiday applies to you. I will say Merry Christmas because I'm a recovering Catholic and I still celebrate that. But to whatever holidays are out there, I hope you have an amazing one. If nothing else, I'll probably be here on Christmas in the afternoon. Until my next video, thank you all for coming to my Dion Talk. Oh, and there's a super chat.